right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here. We're going to wipe those tears for now. This is a very important day here. This is the day that Raniya Crowley was born. Born on 8/6/2009 at 6:38 p.m. Almost 6 pounds. Hey, Sophia, how are you?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing okay. Doing all right now. Um, like
Yeah,
we were saying, this is a very difficult subject, a very difficult topic, and
very tough.
it really is. Uh, kind of at a loss for words right now, but I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm sad. I'm upset. Um, I'm hopeful, all at the same time here.
No matter what people believe in regards to this case, a 5-year-old lost her life, and it's a difficult topic to cover, especially on this day.
Yeah, it is. Uh, Rania was born. I believe she was born in Texas. She was 5 years old when she was murdered. And if you want one reason to look for justice in this case, here it is. It's with this girl. It's with this daughter.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just going through some of these pictures here, and I just cannot understand, considering what we know, what the police knew, and considering the circumstances, why more was not done to investigate. If David was guilty, if he killed his daughter, why wasn't more done to to prove that? And you can show how little that they did by the fact that they didn't even leave the house with with that bullet that they're gonna be able to tie to her later on. And I know it's supposed to be a happy thing, and we were supposed to keep it all bright and everything, but it's tough. It really is tough, and so many people just want to kind of want this to go. They don't want to think about it, don't want to talk about it, don't want to hear about it. That's fine. But then they get to the point where they don't want us talking about it. They don't want us thinking about it. They don't want us questioning this. We're all just supposed to move on and let the Gray State team do whatever they want to do with this project, to just drag David's name through the mud and then take his work and do something with it and make money off of it. They've made money off of these three people's deaths already, however you want to look at it. And
In regards to that, Greg, what is your book? Because some people have brought that up. Your book, you're offering that to the public, correct?
yes, for free,
For free.
for
So
sure.
no money is being made off of that.
No, there will be no money made off that, and there shouldn't be, and there really shouldn't be. Uh, yeah. So I know I have heard that, and I've had people ask me that, and it's fine. People, if you're sincere, you can ask me anything. I don't care. I'll tell you exactly
Hmm.
what I think. I'll tell you straight up. So it's when I'm accused of that bothers me. That frustrates me because cause they know that that's not true, and if they don't know, now you know it's not true.
I had already decided that any proceeds made off of my book was going, part was being, 50% was being donated to veterans, the other 50% for abused children.
That's
Although
great.
there's no proof that Rainey was abused, I felt that in her honor, that other children could be helped
Yeah,
in her honor.
yeah, you're right.
So
They
no
can.
money was ever going to be profited from this tragedy.
No.
And my hope was to help others.
what makes this case so sad is that child in there, right? I mean, it would have been one thing if it was okay. Well, David snapped. He couldn't deal with the pressure, and he just decided to off himself. But to go to this length, to go to say, well, it wasn't just that he offed himself, he had to take his wife and his daughter with him. And then you have idiots on the Gray State team claiming that this was a pact, that they were all in on it, that they all were going to go, and that's it, and they're okay with that. These people are
There's
idiots.
no proof of that. They're just slandering now
Yeah.
at the cost of their friend's reputation. It's just sad. It's very sad.
It is disgusting. They have no morals. No morals. It's a bunch of sellouts. It's tragic. It's tragic.
She's such a beautiful little girl.
Yeah.
Full of energy.
Full of life.
Extremely creative and smart. What a loss.
It's a big loss. For all of their
I
family.
don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this one.
Me either. I'm getting really upset here. Looking at this, people can see this t-shirt here. And I believe this was made in response to Raniya. Basically, in today, I think this was the domestic violence or something like that. Some tied to that, some crazy crap thing like that. I hope if the police, I hope if you learn anything from this photo here, learn how to look up above a Christmas tree. Learn how to do your job. This is disgusting. The whole thing on so many levels. And it's not about placing blame, oh, the police should have done this, or we're just going after them, or whatever. This is about murder. Nobody is...
They politicized her murder.
They politicized her murder. You're right. They sure did. And why? I mean, the people who are trying to... I'm going to pull up a really disgusting photo here, if I can find it here. There you go. Hear my voice. Victim, Raniya Crowley, died December 2014 at age 5. Domestic violence awareness. Really? Do some research. I forget where this came from, but wherever this came from, it puts all of their stats into question for me. You're just going to add this person, like this is just another person that we can throw in there to our cause because it's a really juicy story, because a guy killed his wife and then his daughter. I mean, do some research. They didn't even get the date right. You put January 18th, 2015. I think they can't even get the date right.
It's sad. Very, very sad.
Yeah. It really is. And on and on.
This boy had lost a beautiful soul.
I mean, they have kids. These investigators have kids. They should know this. They should know what they're doing. I mean, look at this family here. It just snaps.
Family, talented family. Look at them.
It's really frustrating. The whole thing. When you think about her, when you think about this daughter, you think about how bright she was. Think about how smart she was. Let's look at the school that she was going to. Cypress Montessori Preschool and Childcare. This is basically a preschool, right? This is for ages 33 months to 5 years. And we were talking a little bit about one of the big questions was, well, if Rania was missing from school for so long, why didn't anybody, call the cops or call a officer, a truant officer, or something like that?
And this wasn't that type of a school. She wasn't in the school district. This was more of a learning daycare where they prepped them for school. And David and Camille would have to pay tuition for her to go to this school. If anything, if there was a waiting list, she probably would have lost her spot on the waiting list. If anything.
And that's it.
And I think one of the members in the group even stated that for the laws in Minnesota, she would have to be at least age 7 before truancy officers would have been involved.
Oh, okay.
I think I read that over the weekend.
That's good to know. And reading a little bit here from uglytruth.info. This is Dan Hannon's website, the preschool question. 5-year-old Rania was enrolled at the Cypress Classical Montessori School in the fall of 2014. Cypress is a NAEYC accredited Montessori preschool for 2 to 5-year-old children with the Super K gifted and talented programs for 4 to 5-year-olds. 4 to 5-year-old children in Burnsville, Minnesota. And Dan says the bodies were found on January 17, 2015. The question is this: was Rania enrolled at the school in January 2015? And if so, and if so, were attempts made to reach the family when she didn't show up for class for 10 straight days? So Sophia, you've looked at those phone records.
Yes.
Do they show that calls were made? There were several attempts made?
Yes, calls were made to Camille and even to David throughout those 10 days. I don't know if there were calls every single day to each of them, but yes, they did reach out to both of them.
Do you know if that was to their old phones or to their newer phones?
It was to their newer phones.
Okay. So they had that. And Dan says, following the Christmas New Year's holiday, classes began on Monday, January 5th. Typically, upon enrolling a child, the parent must fill in 2 names and numbers to use as their emergency contacts. One of them was more than likely David or Camille, but who was the second? Was that person contacted or notified? Once notified, did they reach out to the Crowley residents to get an update? If an attempt was made but no action taken, I would imagine that person would be carrying around a tremendous amount of guilt to this day. And I remember Dan did reach out to somebody from the school here.
That would have been an emergency contact. For instance, if Rani would have been sick at school or they had something come up and were not able to reach David or Camille, they would have that backup person who was able to come and pick her up. So it's interesting that we don't know who that is, and that would be something to find out.
Dan goes on, the Facebook group Justice for David Crowley and Family had at one time 2 people close to the school as members of that page. I do briefly remember that, vaguely. My memory is shot. One was a teacher, and one was a daycare provider in the area that knew about Cypress. Both were quickly harassed and eventually driven away by members that were rude and inconsiderate. One contacted me privately, Dan says, to say that they were being harassed and threatened in the middle of the night with phone calls that involved yelling in other languages for about a week straight. The phone number was blocked, and after that, the calls stopped. And he makes a good point. The number of threats in the aftermath of this event is astonishing, especially for people like that. Anybody who was coming forward, anybody who worked for law enforcement, anything like that. And they were coming there just to, to try to help out. And this is what happens? I mean, and this is early on. So if it's happening to them, it's not too crazy to think that it's happening to a lot of other people as well. And the question would be why?
What are they afraid of?
What are they afraid of? Truth?
It's a very good question, Greg.
I want to say hi to Butterfly Kisses. Thank you for joining us. Everybody who's in the chat right now, thank you all for joining us here. If you'd like to type out some words or type out anything, any condolences, any words you'd like to say specifically about Raniya, about this family, anything like that. Nobody has a bad word to say about Raniya. And I mean, she was 5 years old. Life hadn't even started yet. Hadn't even begun. All right. I'm going to pull up Raniya's school emergency contact information. We'll take a quick look at that.
I'd like to give a shout out to She Wolfie 2. Hi there.
Hey, She Wolfie 2, not 1 but 2. Thanks for joining us.
Wasn't it her first one because of the catnip?
Yeah.
She didn't say that word.
Yeah, she got in trouble. YouTube busted her for something, and that was it for her.
For catnip.
Catnip, yeah. You can say cat and you can say nip, but not in the same sentence, apparently. So, but thank you all for joining us here. Butterfly Kisses said, it's hard to imagine someone could do that to a little innocent child. It really is. And I'm so glad that so many people keep bringing up the fact that, even though it's so brutal, the fact that her rib was broken. And that's a big deal. Other people have also brought up the fact that her whole torso was exposed when her body was found. Her shirt was up to her neck. Part of her pants were kind of down. It's weird stuff. And hey, we'll just blame the dog. We won't do any tests or anything, but screw it. It's disturbing. This is not just police. Well, they didn't do this. Yeah, they really messed up on this, but they got the end right. No, it doesn't work like that. So tell that to somebody else, because we're not buying that. So it looks like there were 3. Okay, so 3 phone numbers on the emergency contact. Do you happen to have... I have the numbers here. Let's see if I have the corresponding information.
Let's see if I recognize him.
I think I have it here.
David. Camille. Oh, okay. So they had 2 of David's phone numbers. One which was actually, I think that might be Camille's number. David's new number, Camille's old number, Camille's new number. Okay.
Okay, so tell us which...
So they didn't have an emergency contact. The top one, I think, is David's phone number. The middle one is Camille's, and the last one is Camille's new number, I believe.
Interesting.
They all belong, those 3 numbers belong to them.
Yeah, and reading her old number, um, it seems like Kamel's dad didn't shut it off. He limited the service. I don't know what that means either. I don't know how he could, or how he was on this bill, how Kamel's dad was paying for all of this stuff. But I don't know. Phone bills look like they're just tied to David and Kamel, right? Or maybe that's
Hmm.
why it's still being paid, because Kamel's dad is still paying for the phones. I don't know.
Kamal's dad wouldn't be paying for David's phone number
That's true.
underneath his name.
That's true.
So, which we I haven't found out any more information in regards to that. Things have been crazy around here.
Yeah. Our life is crazy without all this.
Yeah, it is.
Shiva, just to clarify, go look at the BCA, the 485-page BCA document that Dan Hinnon got. Look at page 102 and 103, and that's where it talks about it talks about Ranya's gray sweatpants. I also found it weird. I could be wrong here, but aside from David, I mean, Kamel and Rania were both wearing gray sweatpants. It doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I just going back over my notes, that was something that kind of stuck out to me a little bit. Ranya's fingers and toes were mummified, so I've been trying to figure out, how early, how late that happens. Purple discoloration on both of her feet and skin slippage. And the reason why I'm saying this, even though we were trying to keep it light, and obviously I totally failed at that, um, just because of how serious this stuff is, and when people wonder why we care, why do we waste our time? Why do we spend our time on this? When I've had people tell me that, enjoy life. These are the same bastards, that have been lying and have been doing a lot of nasty things. And God sees all the things. Everything that we do, it all comes back to us. Nothing and no one will escape the judgment of God. It's very clear. So, there's still time for somebody to really help us get this case reopened, to help us get justice. If not for anybody else, but for this little girl here. For every father out there, for every daughter. Something like that could happen to anybody. Don't think just because it happened to David that it can't happen to you. First they come for David, and you do nothing. When they come for you, might not be anybody else to do anything either. So,
Not only that, but now they're roping in to Mel,
that's right.
saying that she's just as guilty when there's no proof of that whatsoever.
No. And I think that's where some of the split starts happening, where you have all of these people who are so convinced that David Crowley is guilty, and then they go a little too far like this. The narrative changes almost overnight, and then changes back, and then changes again, to the point
Oh, and
where,
then they have to add in
yeah,
they they add in more details like, oh, because he was an alcoholic, and there's no proof of that.
yeah, Catherine did a great
So
video on that yesterday, I think.
yes, she really, really did. She covered a lot of bases in that video.
Yeah, in like 15 minutes, she covered a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Takes me like 2 hours to get one point across sometimes, but you know, we all work at our own pace.
The toxicology screens were clear. There was no alcohol, there was no drugs. Shrooms didn't cause them to spaz out and snap. They didn't hallucinate and decide that they were going to kill each other. He wasn't drunk. There was no bottles in the house. There was no alcohol in his system. Next slide, because we're debunking you right now. Those facts are in the autopsy reports. Go back and read them, folks.
And reading from the Apple Valley Police reports, page 36, Miss Wallach. Now, Miss Wallach worked at Raniya's school, and I believe this is Detective Gummer that ended up talking to her after Dan Hennon reached out to Miss Wallach. Could have been somebody else from the school, but Dan Hennon reached out to try to, get their side, or try to get some help for what happened here. And he gets a call back from Jim Gummert, basically telling him they don't want anything to do with you, blah blah blah, don't make any contact with them. You know, as if they couldn't
Wow.
speak for themselves, I guess. But it shows how deep this goes, how, these walls, they keep putting up these walls and we keep breaking them down, man. All you people that are listening, that are watching, all you people that really care, you have no idea how much you have all helped us, have all helped keep this case going, and have really helped us stay focused on the main things here, on these documents, on these facts. That's it. We're all gonna speculate. We're all gonna. It's natural for us to, have these theories or think, well, what if this happened? What if that happened? You have to go through that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with us also coming to our own conclusions. It doesn't mean we can't work towards getting justice. That is the unifying factor here, is to get justice for this family. And it is coming, and it cannot be stopped. It's way too late. Way too late now. All of the tricks, all of the drama, all of the news reports, yeah, all of that stuff is out there. All of the people who have been quoted saying all of these crazy stuff, it's out there. You can't take it back. And it just shows how shady this case is and the people surrounding this case. How they are not sincere people. They act like they care. Do they really care? Do you really care about this? Because I care. I don't even know these people. Lots of people care to find the truth. We don't care to be lied to. We don't care for the tricks. We don't care for the games. We don't care for these walls. These brick walls that keep getting put up. And we'll keep knocking them down. If we can't knock them down, we'll climb over them. Dig under them. Nothing is going to stop us from finding out what happened. Nothing. So Mrs. Wallach was asked about her emergency contacts on the school form. She stated that Link had not advised of any emergency contacts. Okay, so I was trying to figure out what point Dan was trying to make. Now I see exactly what point he's trying to make. There were no, from what Miss Wallach is telling Detective Gummert, there were no emergency contacts.
It doesn't sound right. Every daycare that you drop a child off at, at least receives
Even for this
emergency
type of
contact.
school?
Yes, my kids were in daycare. Even back then, we had to have emergency contact, whether it was a neighbor or a friend, especially for us because we were in the military and we were away from our family.
Now,
We
for
had to have somebody else.
somebody else. Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. So it couldn't just be them. It should always be a third person.
Hmm.
Very interesting.
Whether a grandparent, somebody else who can come and pick them up if there is an accident or an emergency that pops up.
Let's go back a little bit here. Reading from the timeline. All right, 2007, Alam family moved to their home in Hewitt, Texas on July 5th. David is transferred to Fort Hood, Texas. 2008, David meets Kamel at a bar in Waco, Texas. David and Kamel get married in Waco, Texas on May 22nd. Didn't they like get married really fast too, within a couple weeks or something? Is that right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Super duper fast. I thought that was I mean that stuff happens, right? I know people that have they knew they met somebody in 2 weeks and they're married for 35 years, 40 years probably now. That stuff does
Hmm.
happen, but that was, very interesting to me. So 2008, I mean they only knew each other 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13. They only knew each other 7 years. It's not. Maybe for some people that is a long time, but for me that's not a long time. Um, so they get married in Waco, Texas on May 22nd, 2008. Kamel gets pregnant. The date range roughly October to November. Um, and so let's see, David is discharged a year later. Okay, I see that. So all this happens while he's still in the service. Maybe that's why they got married so quickly. Do you see that a lot in the service? Marriages
Yes.
like this? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, my ex and I were married within a few weeks of knowing each other.
Oh,
No,
well.
that didn't work out, but it is what it is.
It's a 50-50 chance.
Hmm. I was looking at the hospitals surrounding Hewitt, Texas. There's a veterans hospital in that area,
Mm-hmm.
Providence Healthcare Center, Baylor, Women's and Children's Center, which is a maternity wing there. It's probably where she was born.
She's born on August 6, 2009. And at some point, that's when David and Kamel and their newborn moved to Minneapolis in Minnesota. I think that's where they moved to an apartment.
Hmm.
Now this timeline, this timeline is interesting. Very interesting. I don't want to get off too much into the paranormal stuff here, but with the paranormal incident that allegedly happened in 2011, Rania would have only been 2 years old. That's interesting. Let's see. Hothead Productions LLC is created on January 7th, 2010. David meets Danny August Mason in 2010. On April 13th, David Crowley files a form with the ATF acknowledging he's building a customized short rifle AR-14 to be used as a movie prop. It is approved by the ATF on 4/21/2010. David Crowley begins writing a script for a project known as The Gray State. Officer Joe Bergeron is shot and killed in the line of duty in Minnesota on May 1st, on May Day. He is David's uncle and Kate Crowley's brother. At the time, it was the largest funeral procession in state history. Here's something interesting about that. Again, not necessarily tying into anything, but Well, no, I'm not. I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. Um, 2011, Lom family sells a home on May 17th in Hewitt, Texas. Also in 2011, David Crowley, Danny Mason, and Mitch Heil filmed scenes for the Gray State trailer, a 2-minute, 40-second video. There is a video out there. This is way after this. Must have been 2013. I don't know if you've seen it. It was a live stream. Somebody posted it in the group, and it was a live stream that shows David Crowley filming some scenes where they were going to have basically a bunch of police kick down a couple people's doors, take them out of their house while the children are screaming and everybody's crying and it's just loud, all this noise. And Ranya's there. She was actually in that scene. She's one of the kids screaming in that. She couldn't have been more. I mean, obviously, if she passed when she was 5, she couldn't have been more than 4 maybe. So she was exposed to a lot of this stuff. That did kind of bother me too. I don't know. I mean, some kids are strong enough to deal with that. And maybe she was strong enough to deal with that, or else I don't think her parents would have put her in that spot. But again, I'm just guessing here.
They seemed like they talked with her a lot about things that were going on and what the movie was about.
Oh, sorry, your phone's cutting was a little muffled there.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It seemed to me, because of the documentary, it seemed like David and Camille talked to her a lot about the movie and about
It sounds like you're really
stuff.
far. Okay, that sounds better. Whatever
Let
you
me
did.
switch hands.
Okay.
Sorry, it's
Much
a
better.
newer phone and I'm still getting used to it. Because of the documentary, it seemed to me that Camille and David were really keeping her up to date with the movie and things that were going on. Where we think that she might have been too young. I don't know. Maybe they were just. I don't know. I don't know what the point was. I'm sorry.
The point was maybe she could handle that. I think, and
Yeah, yeah. That's how they were raising her, and there's nothing negative about that. That was David's profession. Yes, that's correct, She-Wolfie. This was the Crowley life.
yeah, pretty much. She was an actor too. She was an actor in the trailer, and of course, that scene, that live stream scene that we're talking about, shows that she was an actor there too. So she was getting first-hand knowledge on the difference between acting and what is real. They
Mhm.
keep saying David Crowley, even Mitch Heil saying, at the end he started blurring those lines. Was it Mitch Heil? It was either David Kirk West or Mitch Heil. One of them was saying that, but they all try to make it seem like that, like he was blurring those lines. What are you guys talking about? In 2012, those lines were blurred. They were already blurred, and all of you guys were part of that.
Mhm.
They were all part of that. They didn't have any problem with blurring those lines then, when there might have been money involved. Once they
Yeah.
realize, hey, it's not this cash cow that we thought that this was gonna be. Things start changing. Maybe that's when David really figured out who was really gonna be with him through thick and thin, and who was just hanging around to make money.
Or it just doesn't fit the narrative of the movie that they made.
Yeah.
They needed David to be the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they had no issues filming with Raniya in the earlier years. So
Yeah, that was all fine. That was all fine. It's only till later. Then it became a problem. 2012, the Gray State concept trailer for the fictional film Gray State is published on YouTube on 8/7/2012, roughly 2.5 million views as of February 2017. I'm sure it's up now, too. Kamel receives her master's degree in public health nutrition from the University of Minnesota on 10/31/2012. The Alam family arrived from Texas to celebrate. Nyla Alam is probably one of the least talked about people, Kamel's mom. And I'm not exactly sure why, other than she was probably the last person, maybe the last person on earth at this point, to know that her daughter and her son-in-law and her granddaughter were all dead. And do you think they're gonna leave any room open? Do you think they left any room open for the fact that maybe what they were told is not true? Maybe what she was told was not true? I don't know.
I honestly don't know.
I don't know.
That is the one topic that I know very little about. What was told to Kamel's mother, and I know nothing about that, so I can't even comment.
Yeah, I mean, we can only go by what is in these documents, and then go by what people say. You have to consider the source in all of these cases, but I don't necessarily just discount what people say just because their stories don't necessarily add up. But I always thought that Kamel's mom and Kamel's dad could really help us. And I think that made them a target. I think it still makes them a target.
Which is sad, because nobody in this case should be a target.
Right.
Nobody should be receiving threatening phone calls.
That's right.
I mean, we're all mature adults here. We should be able to talk, but I don't understand why these threats are going on, and why people are being scared away and threatened and harassed. I don't understand that. What's the point? I mean, I was told a year ago that somebody had called the Alam's, Mr. Alam's work, and had harassed him. And I thought that was really cold of people to do. Now, I don't know if it was the truth or not. I mean, there's been plenty of disinfo when it comes to this case. But
Right.
if that happened, that's horrible.
Yeah, that's happened to people in the group. So it's not far-fetched to think that it's going to happen to their family. And the other thing is to try to make it seem like it's somehow tied to this group. And if the group will just shut down, if the group will just stop, all of this will stop. Well, that's ransom. Not only is it lying, but it's ransom. You're holding them ransom. You're holding everything ransom. You know, it's just ridiculous on so many levels. So frustrating. And at the same time, it grinds my gears so much that it makes me just want to keep going and push even harder to find this truth, to find out what we can do to get the case reopened, first of all, and to shed some light on this case, and get it out of the darkness that is surrounding not only this case, but the darkness that surrounds people that try to insert themselves into this case. When it's not necessary, it's unnecessary completely. Grieving is one thing. Standing by the family is one thing. standing against truth, creating lies, threatening people, targeting people, going after them
Or their families.
and their families. That shows their true colors. And that also shows that we need to keep pushing forward. Keep pushing on. The truth is marching on. We're marching with it.
I know my goal is to find the truth not only for Camille and David, but for Ronnie.
Right.
And no matter what that road leads us down, I want to find it for them so that they can finally rest in peace.
Yeah.
They deserve to rest in peace.
They do.
To have their names cleared.
They surely do. And resting in peace, they're not going to rest in peace the way things are. The way that this case has gone, with all the lies and with all this, all the, just the drama of just people asking questions and trying to get some clear answers here. How can these three people truly rest in peace when you have somebody accused of a double murder suicide to the extent that we're seeing? Missing hands, a missing arm, heads missing. Brutal. The brutality involved. The cryptic stuff. So many things in that house just do not make sense. They just do not add up.
And then blaming it all on the poor dog.
Yeah. And why? How did we get here? How do we get to this point when any rational human being can clearly see this is not a double murder suicide? And you have conversations with people, and that's fine. You go back and forth and share differing views about why this would be a double murder suicide. I've not heard any good thing. I've not heard anything that would help me understand why this is a double murder suicide. In fact, the more that I researched and the more documents that we got, it showed the opposite. That's clear. It's very, very clear. She-Wolf says, if what the police said is the truth, why would anyone need to be threatened or shut up? Yeah. There you go. Well, I mean, Dan Hinnon, was one of those people, one of the first people who the Gray State team tried to come after. When Dan Hinnon started the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group, they really tried to come after him. And they still are, but they failed, and they will continue to fail constantly. Every time that they fail, it just helps us. Every time that they play these games, every time that they do all of this stuff, they don't realize. They should by now. Eric Nelson probably learned a very valuable lesson.
Right.
Very valuable lesson. And if he didn't, then he's more clueless than I thought he ever was. Of course, to make a movie like that.
I was wondering, do you have any updates from Christian in regards to the newer documentary? Has he told you anything?
I think we're still a long ways off from that. I do think it is. I do think he will follow through on it. But when you talk about how many serious talks we've had about that, we're still in the very early stages here. And I've been thinking about that, and maybe people have some thoughts on that too. I'm gonna take a quick time out here to just go and help my cat out, but uh, maybe we can think about this for a minute while I take a little short break. Um, what should be in the documentary? What should we talk about? What should be the focus of this? Because I want Christian to, obviously, to make the movie, the documentary he wants to make, and I have no idea what his vision is, if he has one, or if he's counting on us to kind of come up with one or something too. So let's think about that for a second, and I'll be right back. If there's anybody in the chat, if you want to address anything in the chat, I'll be right back. Give me about 30 seconds here.
Okay. What was in the documentary that proves the police narrative? I think for the Eric Nelson documentary, Eric Nelson was given hours and hours of videotape and recordings, and the ones that he put in the documentary for A&E and on Netflix, he manipulated to fit the narrative that David snapped, and that he was, I guess, Sidra was trying to lead people to believe that David was abusive, and so he had picked the temper tantrum that Raniya had downstairs, and David was filming that. Eric Nelson had also picked the Transformers reenactment scene where David is saying, fuck yeah, in the basement as he's getting, I guess, prepped for a scene. And then when they're sitting at the table and discussing the Red Man. So out of all the film that was handed over to Eric Nelson, that's what he picked, so that he could manipulate that documentary to prove David's guilt.
It's a stretch, isn't it?
Oh, it's extremely wrong what he did.
I mean, were they just looking for something? We talk about within 24 hours, they already think they have what they need to show that David Crowley is guilty. A year later, we find out that's not true. And wasn't there something Eric Nelson, like 4 days after this happened, he contacted David's dad? Is that right?
Yes. Within 72 hours, I believe, he was already contacting the Grave State members and wanting to do a movie or a documentary.
And yet he says he had no knowledge of David or anything before this. He just read it in a newspaper.
Wait, do we know for a fact that he contacted the Gray State team, or did the Gray State team reach out to him?
If I remember correctly, uh, a person in the group stated that he contacted David's dad after 4 days. I could be wrong on that. We'll have to clarify that too, but it was quick. But I thought it was David's dad. I could be wrong on that though. I mean, it's not too far-fetched when you look at the people David's dad was probably surrounding himself with, and it's a lot of the same people that you'll see in that film that, wanted admin rights from Dan Hennon. It's all the same group. People that called me, tried to start drama with me too, all in that same group. These are the guys that you're going to trust with that? These are the guys that we're supposed to take seriously? No, I don't think so. Worse, they couldn't even be honest about it. They couldn't even say that they were involved in it. It was all a big game, a big haha. Now we got them. You didn't get anything. You didn't get truth. What you got is what you put out there. Go ahead.
Who sits around and on Facebook and gives out this info in regards to how your friend died, or make up stories about the wall and how that was done? I mean, only sick people do that. It just angers me. Okay, happy thoughts.
Happy thoughts, right?
Because I would go off, and I don't want to do that. This is in regards to Rainey. We're thinking about her tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're thinking good things. Good things in the fact that justice needs to be done here. Justice needs to be served. And come on. We're just preaching to the choir here.
I'm hoping that the new documentary will show some footage of David with his family, and not only that, but what led up to what happened to them will help clear David's name from this other documentary that was pure propaganda.
I think that would be great. Yeah, there might be some pushback, legal stuff or whatever. Oh, we can't use that footage or this or that, but you never know.
There's plenty of footage that was never used.
Yeah. There's a lot of footage. The good footage.
I mean, they purposely waded through all that footage to find bits and pieces to manipulate to fit their narrative.
Right. That's the key point. To fit their narrative right there. You nailed it. So it was so good to hear the people that went to see Eric Nelson's film and the response that he got from that film, how people reacted. He's never going to live that down. Never. He can never take that. That is a scar on his face.
It is because of that documentary that I no longer believe documentaries or even news stories. I know when I hear something, it's like, okay, what's the rest of the story?
We're having a hard time hearing you again.
Oh, because I switched the phone.
Okay.
It is because of Eric Nelson's documentary that I no longer believe documentaries.
Did that ruin it for you?
Oh, it absolutely did. And now I want to know the rest of the story. Okay, I saw your view. Now I want the truth. And so now I no longer will sit and watch these because everything is made with a narrative. And once people realize that this documentary was made to convince us that David was guilty. It wasn't a true documentary, it was a propaganda piece.
Right. It's a poopymentary. Let's
Well,
see.
not only that, but they politicized their deaths
That's right,
because
in
they
many
call
ways.
him alt-right.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're talking about guns. They're talking about mental illness that doesn't exist, and drugs. They were politicizing it.
Right.
And there was no need for that.
Only if they could back it
All they
up,
had,
which they couldn't.
which they can't. Yeah.
All they had to do was just be honest. I think people would have taken them more seriously. I think their lies and their propaganda would have probably worked on more people if they wouldn't have gone so far.
hmm
They got
But
greedy.
even back then,
Mhm.
watching it, you could tell that something was off, that they were trying to manipulate your feelings. And I think that is why so many people, after watching that documentary, were saying, hey, I was just lied to.
People
Why
don't
was
like.
I lied to?
That's right. People don't like that. It's one of the worst things you could ever do to any person on this earth is lie to them. Now sometimes you've been lied to and you spread that lie and you don't know it. That's different.
hmm
That's different. That happens. That can happen to anybody.
I remember the early days when researching this case. I would catch on, like I was repeating things that other people were repeating, and it wasn't the truth. And I remember you saying, okay, prove to me where that came from. And you would make me go and research it and try to find where that was said in the reports. And that was a valuable lesson. Don't just repeat what other people tell you. Go back and make sure that you can prove it.
Amen. She-Wolf is leaving some good comments that we should address here. Let's go to a
Oh,
few of
gosh,
these.
you're right.
She says, "What was in the documentary that proves the police narrative?" Nothing, because the police can't even prove their own. The police did not want to be involved in this whole documentary. The only reason they make it seem like the police were, but they weren't. The police were involved in they were interviewed by Tom Lydon, and then after that, I don't think the police were taking questions from anybody. It was like Tom Lydon was their guy, and we'll give him the exclusive, and that's it. Tom Lydon sat there and acted like he cared and all this stuff. Where's Tom Lydon now? He's
I would
moved
like
on.
to actually watch that news clip where he interviewed everybody and did the news story for David Crowley and in his hometown.
Oh,
I can't find it.
yeah. It's out there. It's definitely out there. I could play it right now probably. But it is out there. Um, I will make sure that you have that. I think it's
Okay,
still
thank
on
you.
Fox 9. It should they unless they took it down. Unless they took it down. If they were smart, they would have. But that whole thing, um, even if they take down all of the video, we have the whole transcript. So we got it all. And yeah, you're
Uh,
that whole thing. When you see that, I mean, I'm not gonna even spoil it for you. You already know what the spoiler is, but take it on a day where your patience is where you have a lot of patience, because it will try your patience for sure. It really will. And he's sitting there all smug and just like acting like he does ask a couple good questions though, and he's the only reason why the public knows about that blood writing or anything to do with any of that Allah ooh Akbar stuff. Tom Lydon is the only reason. Without him, we might not have learned about it until Eric Nelson's film, and there is a big difference. I will give Tom Lydon credit for that. They're both two crappy pieces, but one is a little less stinkier. Tom Lydon's doesn't stink as bad. At least that's my view on it.
I really think that needs to be posted in the group.
It might be. Yeah, it might be. If it's not, I will have Christian Coffins make sure he saves it, and then we'll pull it from his website. It'll be on darkdocs.com pretty soon, just in case it ever gets taken down. There's always a backup. She-Wolf also says, let's see. Oh, and what shows the narrative was wrong? That's a great question. In the Sloppymentary, they don't really talk about any of the doubt except for me and Dan. We get a couple minutes, and that's really it. And we just answered whatever questions they wanted, whatever they were going to say. We weren't scripted. I think a lot of the other people were actually scripted. Dan Senior, he was scripted. He's reading from a script. He has a piece of paper there, and he's reading from it. That's a script.
And how long did they film you that day, Greg?
They filmed me probably for about an hour, and then Dan and I did our live stream, which we thought was also going to make it into there maybe, but I don't think they put anything. Well, they might have put one or two things that was said in there, but that was it.
So just like a couple hours, and they narrowed it down to like, what, a couple sentences?
Pretty much.
Taken out of context?
2 sentences.
Wow.
And then me fighting a fly. that made it in. They couldn't my talk about item 57 and how they missed the most important bullet, the bullet that they say killed David. That didn't make it in. The fact, that Gummert told Dan Hennon one thing and told me something totally different, that didn't make it in. Even Sean Wright's threats, all of his calls and all of that drama, that didn't make it in. But me fighting a fly made it in. I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what else didn't make it in.
Oh, well, we know everything from Kamel's family. That didn't make it in.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder why? I do. I think about that a lot. A lot. How they turned on them, too. They burned them. Burned the whole family. Might as well put them on an altar before a giant 40-foot owl. She-Wolf also says, what made it like everyone was being forced to believe this narrative? That's what Christians should address in the new documentary. I love that. I'm going to read that again. So, what should be in Christian's documentary, according to She-Wolfie 2, not She-Wolfie 1, She-Wolfie 2. This is the good She-Wolfie. She says, what made it like everyone was being forced to believe this narrative? I love that. Because I do think that that's more in line of where Christian is coming from, and I think his another thing that he should focus on too is he didn't even know about this, right? He didn't really know, and there's so many people that don't know about this case, and when they find it, they have a hard time just letting it go. Some people, I think, jump in and they want to solve this case, and that's great. And, I have no problem with that. If you can solve this case with the snap of your fingers, please do. But I can't, obviously. Been here 5 years now. 4.5, maybe, right? I mean, we're coming up on 5 years. This is
Yeah.
crazy.
Not only solve the case, but have the proof backing up what you say. That's really, really big for me. I want to see the facts backing it up. Not hearsay, not found evidence from mystical journals. I want facts backing this case up.
Here's another good thing that She Wolfie 2 says. Why was there nothing negative? Why was there nothing negative about any friends in this documentary, but they made Rania look crazy and not understanding reality from movies. They also made Kamel look crazy, and they tried to
Yeah,
make David look crazy. They tried to make all three of them look crazy. If you think about it, it's a great point.
they were they were trying to prove the narrative that David had slipped into madness and Kamel was right there with him. That's
And
what they were trying to do.
and
And that whole
mhm.
rapture talk and stuff like that, that was their way of proving that Kamel had snapped. When they had all types of recordings and stuff that they could have picked. And it was just that one thing. My personal opinion is that that was just a dream that she had, a very vivid dream. I can't prove it, but it would explain why she was so upset.
Well, again, I go back to the whole the paranormal thing. You know, I do think there was something going on there. I really do. And again, I can't prove that. That's it's great. A lot of
Well,
people won't even talk about it.
whether it was paranormal or that she was being a targeted individual, which is very possible, considering the type of work that David was doing.
Right.
But we don't know and we can't prove it.
Right. And that's the whole thing.
Just like,
What can be proven? If David Crowley's guilt cannot be proven, what can
yeah,
be? Sorry, I cut you off there. I know you're trying to make a point, but
no, you're right. Sorry, I was opening a gate.
so I guess we should start to wrap this up unless you have anything else here to kind of cover here or any words that you want to say about this family, about Rania, about all of this. I'm kind of at a loss a little bit. Pretty angry here, but um, I'm gonna turn that anger into something positive, and I'm gonna use it to keep me going, to pray about this, to ask God what I should do, where I should go, and pray about how we can get this case reopened.
Absolutely. It hurts my heart that a 5-year-old had to suffer. And I pray that she is resting in peace. She's a beautiful soul. And now I'm going to start crying again.
Well, we don't want that, so let's go ahead and.
Grab some Kleenexes.
This is a tough one. This is a really tough case, and I know a lot of people are drawn to it, and it can be toxic. But we have to make sure that we're not bringing our own negativity into this case. That we're not trying to make this case all about us, because it's not about us, man. It has nothing to do with us, right? We get to go home. We get to, keep living life, and but I want people to really understand this could happen to anybody, and this does happen. This is not just a one-time thing. So we're gonna keep truth going, and I thank everybody for listening to this. If you do have anything you'd like to say, anything that you could do to help us, please, because we need all the help that we can get. And
Absolutely.
there is strength in numbers. There is strength in having more people, but you know, whatever we can do, whatever we can do. All right, good peeps. I appreciate you all.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Any final words, Sophia?
Well, Wolfie wrote, yes, Raniya is beautiful, and I truly believe that just knowing there are people that know the truth helps her rest in peace. Thank
Amen.
you, Wolfie. That was beautiful.
That's it. That's a great way to end this here. Finally, a positive note.
Absolutely.
All right. Until we meet again.
Thank you all for joining us and looking back over Raniya's 5 short years. And let's all keep her in our hearts and our thoughts.
Amen.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night, and God bless you all.